Welcome to another episode of Jay Leno's Garage. This episode is going to be a tribute to the man who built this car. His name is Paul Annunziata, and he passed away of lung cancer a while ago, and he was a master mechanic. He worked at the same car dealership that I worked at when I was a kid, and he opened his own shop. He was a race car driver. Well, you'll see. We have a bit of footage on him. Interesting story behind this car. He had lung cancer, and he wanted the car to go to a good home. And he contacted me, and he said he would donate the car to me as long as I promised not to sell it. And I agreed to that, but I didn't want to take it from him. And what we did was I bought the car from him, and we donated the money to McPherson College, which is a college that gives a 4-year degree in auto restoration and auto mechanics. And the students that got the Paul Annunziata scholarship called him right before he passed away, and he was very happy and very thrilled that that was the outcome, that some young people could continue learning about automobiles and restoring them. It all turned out pretty good. Now, before we get into the car and the mechanics of it and driving it, and believe me, it's fascinating to drive, back in Massachusetts, he came from Hopkinton, Massachusetts. He lived in Hollister, but Michelle Murdoch was a young woman who did a story on him for HCAM TV. That's one of the local stations there in Massachusetts, and here's her report. Take a look.
From driving go-karts as a kid to driving standard shift cars down abandoned railroad beds at the age of 13, cars have always been important to Paul Annunziata. Beginning at age 16 with a 650cc matchless motorcycle and drag racing his 55 Chevy Hot Rod, Paul has owned and driven a variety of different cars, but his 1975 Plymouth Duster is special. So special that it recently traveled cross-country to its new home in Jay Leno's garage. HCAM News sat down with Paul to talk about how he built the car and about its new home in LA.
This car is a 1975 Plymouth Duster. It has a 1968 426 engine in it that came from a Dodge Super Bee.
After graduating from Jim Russell's International Race Drivers School in Norfolk, England in the early 1970s, and as the valedictorian of his class from national technical schools in Los Angeles, California, Paul had the idea to build a pro-stock class drag car for the street.
When I was in California going to school, I used to go to Orange County Dragway. And the cars back then in the 70s, they had a class called Pro Stock. And these are the Pro Stock cars, the Mopar Missile and the Motown Missile. They were two black Pro Stock cars that I came up with the idea, and I wasn't the first one to do it, to take this car, this Pro Street drag car, and put it on the street.
Putting the Duster on the street took a lot of work with many modifications.
What that incorporated was these large tires. They cut the wheel wells out, the factory wheel wells out of the car, and modified the trunk and put in new wheel wells so that they could narrow a rear end housing and put wide tires all up underneath. There was nothing protruding beyond the outer extremity of the quarter panels. Then, the rake angle of the car, wheelie bars that are on the back.
I saw those.
The wheelie bars are really to prevent the car from going way up in the air and then having it slam back down and do damage to the front suspension. That's what they're all about.
In addition to the wide tires and everything else that goes with a race car, the Duster is supercharged.
I wanted to supercharge it, so I used a Roots type supercharger or blower. The man's name that invented these was Roots, R-O-O-T-S. They pumped air down into mining shafts to give the coal workers, the miners, air. That's where this all came from.
And then it was adapted for cars.
Right.
A winning scratch ticket at a local supermarket helped fund the building of Paul's car.
And I bought the first ticket I ever bought in my life, a scratch dollar ticket. And it was a 7-11-21 game. I had 11 3 5s and a 6, and I won $10,000. The $10,000 started me on building this car.
The challenge was the engine, since Annunziata wanted a Hemi.
They didn't produce any 426 Hemi engine
In
the Duster. You could get a 318 to 340. Aftermarket, people put 383s in them and 440s, and some people put some Hemis in them like I did.
Considerable modifications were required to fit the 426 Hemi engine into the A-body Duster.
I took it to Lindblad Chassis in Whitensville, Rolly Lindblad. He builds a lot of round cars, stock car stuff. And he did some drag cars. And he tubbed the car, put the roll cage in it, and did the modifications to try to get the Hemi into the engine compartment. Now, a lot of people cut everything out of there so they can get it in there easily.
Because it's big, right?
It's huge.
Yeah.
You have to move the heater in, the master cylinder's got to be moved out. The shock tower on this side has to be folded outboard so it doesn't hit the cylinder heads. It's a very complex, hard car to work on because I wanted to keep the body original and have everything work.
Okay.
So this car's got backup lights, it's got a heater, it's got a defroster, radio. Everything works on this car the way it's supposed to.
Annunziata had help with some of the modifications, with the special bracketry required for the engine and with the paint, but assembled the car himself for a total cost of $27,000.
I had to assemble it. I put every nut, bolt, screw, wire, clip, except the windshield.
How long did it take?
5 years.
This custom-built 1975 Plymouth Duster won its class in the Boston World of Wheels 4 times and the Worcester Centrum Top Honors 1 time. It was awarded the Holly Carburetor Outstanding Engine Custom Award and was featured in Hot Rod magazine in November of 1980. Through a connection made when he owned Annunziata's Dyno tune-up in Framingham, Paul was able to contact Leno when he was searching for a new home for his car. On Wednesday, July 20th, Annunziata's 1975 Plymouth Duster was picked up by Intercity Lines, the car transport company used by Leno to transport his cars. After it was loaded on the truck and made secure, Annunziata signed the papers that made the transfer official, and his Plymouth Duster with the 426 CI Hemi engine began its journey westward to Jay Leno's garage.
That's an extraordinary, fantastic garage. Because I'm sick and ill with cancer, I wanted to pass on and not worry about the preservation of the car. So he gave me his word he wouldn't sell it. I believe him, and he's a terrific person, and I'm very happy and content that he took the car. I donated the car to him.
That is really a cool story.
So that's the story.
Paul wanted to make sure that the following people who played a part in the building of his Duster were thanked. For the body paint, Bobby Bell from Holliston. For special components, the late Frank Wiley of Hopkinton. And for suspension parts painting, Jeff Ferber of Hopkinton. Reporting for HCAM News, I'm Michelle Murdoch.
Well, sadly, Paul is gone now, but the car lives on here. We've got the trophies, and we've got all the articles about the car and the history of the car, and we've heard from a lot of his friends, so I'd like to think we're keeping this as a memorial to him. Now, you heard a brief explanation about what the car is from Paul, but we'll go over it again. It's a 75 Duster. Now, the Duster obviously never came with a Hemi engine, and what he did was, when he built this car, he bought a brand new body in white from Chrysler. That means the car was unpainted, a brand new body, and he fitted it on this chassis. It's a 68 Hemi engine. Obviously, it's supercharged. Well, let's take a look. Come on, we'll open up the hood here for you. There we go. It fits in there. We put a little bigger radiator in it because it's a lot cooler in Massachusetts than it is in Los Angeles. So we put a bigger radiator in it. We had to redo the mag. The mag, you know, the car was built 30-something years ago, and it just deteriorated. So we rebuilt the mag. We had to rejet the carburetor, so these were pretty much just bear traps, either full throttle or nothing. So it made the car not very streetable. We took the wheelie bars off the back because police tend to frown on wheel stands on the street, and they just clanged and made a lot of noise. And we just did a general cleaning up, but other than that, it's exactly as Paul wanted it. We kept everything exactly as the car would have looked in the late 70s or early 80s. As Paul says in his video, everything works on the car: radio, heater. Don't ask about gas mileage, it's kind of a sore spot. But it moves out pretty good, as you will see in just a second. Let's take a look at the interior of the car. There's Paul's initials right there. We left that on there. There's your, obviously, tachometer, a few extra gauges. You'll see that when we go for a ride. Obviously, the rear seat has been removed, and the gas tank is here. Let's take a look in there. As you see, we have our fuel cell here. Well, new battery, a few other little things. But look how sanitary it is. Look what a nice job he did on this car. He just did an amazing, amazing job. Beautiful detail work, everything nicely done. This car won a number of awards. Well, you saw Paul holding his trophies. That's only a small number of trophies that it won, and it's been featured in Hot Rod magazine in 1980 and a few other magazines as well. Oh, we also changed the tires. We put proper street tires on the front. Those little drag tires, whatever they were that were on there, they really couldn't steer. We had to do the front end alignment, but I think it's about time to go for a ride. I wish I had this in high school. We took the wheelie bars off the back because they were just crashing too much. Starting to get some heat into her now. Well, you know, it's street legal. It's not that loud with these mufflers on it. I got cars that are louder than this. Not as fast, but loud. Just the fact that you can drive a motor like this on the street is a testament to Paul's skill as a builder and a tuner. This thing's got about 1,000 horsepower. There's nothing like these Hemi engines. Actually rides nice at freeway speed. Oh, you did a great job, my friend. Got your mag switch here, your fuel here, auxiliary fan, transmission temperature, water temperature, tachometer, speedometer, oil pressure, and oil temperature as well. Oil temperature runs pretty high. You know, this car only has 517 miles on it, and I probably put a couple of hundred of those on myself. Paul put the other miles on all a quarter mile at a time, so it's probably a lot more miles than that. But inside, the motor's beautiful. Ed Pink, of course, does an amazing job. He was a real genius when it came to these Hemis. Paul only wanted the best. That's why he went to Ed Pink, and they're still in business today, 30, 40 years later. Nice thing is you don't have to torque load it. You just step on the gas and she goes. want to thank once again Paul Annunziata. Paul, a true car guy, and this car will live on in this garage. And when people come and they want to know about the car, we'll tell them about you, and they can watch this video. So, God bless you, my friend. See you next week.